and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show, the MLS podcast of the year, runner-up. Unfortunately, we lost out on the big title. And with me, though, is a man who finished in the top 5 of MLS podcast co-host, Logan Stumpf.
I don't know. I want to see the list of people who I've run up against. I think like Dan Kuzer would definitely be one of them.
He's up there.
Definitely up there. I got to feel like the Weigels. I don't know how that show works because there's so many of them. So I imagine the Weigels are 3 and 4 in behind Dan and I. And then number 5, I guess I got to go with Todd, even though he kind of hosts his own show by himself. He's got to be his own co-host too sometimes. So.
Yeah.
I feel like Todd Lewis is another good shout. Maybe some Jack and AJ. I hope they're feeling better. I know they were both getting smacked around. AJ, hope you're feeling all right. So saw that the final third guys weren't feeling up to par. So hope everything's good there. I know it's probably even worse now because of the loons, but I guess we'll get into that.
We will get in that. We got a huge show, actually. I'm Jordan Weekend, whatever. We got a huge
Jordan, how you doing? I mean, number 1 host in behind Andrew Wiebe. That's pretty.
Is that true? I didn't think I won that.
You don't need to look that up at any point in time during the show, but just kind of go with it. Andrew Wiebe took first, but you were a close second.
Oh, it's just like in most people's hearts. But we have a lot of news. We have stuff that we did not think we were going to be talking about today, like the 28 home openers that we have to talk about. We got Goalkeeper of the Year and some movement and comeback player, new player of the year that we'll be talking about. And then we actually have the games to talk about. There's also, we can look at who's already qualified for the CONCACAF Champions League for 2022. And, of course, we had a Canadian championship that was crowned as well yesterday. So, and we have to look forward to Tuesday's games. So, I guess enough beating around the bush here. We're going to get into that. Before we get to the games that we just watched, though, we're going to look at some of these news items. So, let's start with LAFC, Christian Arango, named Newcomer of the Year. I think we picked this last time when we were looking at it, right? I stupidly said somebody else, and then I corrected to Arango when you look at those numbers, 14 goals in 17 games or
matches, man, that's insane.
It is insane. He deserves it. Congratulations. LAFC need it for next year, obviously. As Bob Bradley's out, we didn't even get a chance to talk about that yet either. I guess let's real quickly say Matt Turner was Goalkeeper of the Year. We all kind of thought that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
He actually had a better season last year and Blake won it. Mm-hmm. And then Blake had a better season this year and Turner won it. So, I mean, whatever. It's usually whoever wins the Shield, I think, in most cases. And
should be.
And that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, we also had Pepe winning Young Player of the Year, whatever they call it. Which I thought was not correct. I thought it should have probably been Tajon Buchanan.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So we have the Bob Bradley and LAFC have parted ways. Bob was at the end of his contract. They're not going to sign an extension. He is walking away. I think most people have kind of put the pieces together saying, well, if Chicago job is taken, which a lot of people pegged him for because he had coached them in their first season, and you have some of these other jobs that are kind of getting snapped up. Toronto, right? I think most people love Bob Bradley in Toronto. He has his kid playing there for as long as he's going to play there. I was going to say Josie is a connection as well from the national team, but Josie's going out, it sounds like, leaving Toronto. And to me, I think when we get into preseason predictions, if he goes there, I'm putting him down Coach of the Year maybe. I'm thinking he could do a Bruce Arena type renaissance for Toronto there. And it makes sense for Tim Bezbatchenko to leave Toronto at this point because some people assume Bob would probably have a lot more control for bringing players in. So what are your thoughts on him leaving LAFC? And then we'll talk about the LAFC side of it a little later, but just on the Bob side. And, are you as gung-ho as I am about going to Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a move that we all saw coming, right? I think you and I talked about last episode where there were reports that he had been, discussing certain instances where Bob Bradley wouldn't be the coach at LAFC anymore. And sure enough, we come up with the news that he'd no longer be with LAFC. And then when the links started dropping, Jordan, you and I talked about it. We were texting going, Toronto would be a perfect fit. I think that, like you said, the Bruce Arena effect, kind of having that same effect with Toronto. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he making the player personnel decisions at LAFC? Like, wasn't that his? Like,
I think it was John Thorrington doing.
Because I thought they had given him a big leash to bring in a lot of his own guys. I mean, obviously, I know that he's got a big say in what's going on as far as personnel is concerned. But I thought as far as LAFC concerned, he had a big part in that, but I guess you can look that up while I'm talking. But first coach of LAFC, parting ways, 58, 34, and 32 record with the club. Trip to the CONCACAF's Champions League final. Coach of the Year 2019. But man, this team just looked uninspired, even with the injuries, even with the coming on of, I guess, Arango, the coming Player of the Year. I think that there's a lot that LAFC needs to do and to revamp. And I think that firing Bob was probably the best move as far as trying to get some new blood in here. I think, unfortunately,
I don't know if it's technically a firing.
I guess parting ways. Yeah. But I mean, not signing on for another couple of years, I think it leaves LAFC in a weird spot. I know that Vela is getting up there in age and he had a hard time staying healthy. Again, we talked about, different guys there. Atuesta, how long does he stay? How long does Rossi stay now? You've got guys like that just, Mike Anthony, he left early and was traded because it just wasn't working out. So that system was just falling apart. I think in Toronto, he's getting a club that, you and I talked about it too. Like with Toronto, this team was dying and it needs to be revamped and it needs a overhaul. Their defense was just not as good as it had been. Which was a big staple for Toronto for so long. They had a really solid back line that they just couldn't get healthy or playing well this season. And then again, their attacking problems. Pozzolo he didn't play as much this year as, the reigning MVP hadn't played as much. So it was interesting. I think that, when you look at this Toronto team, I think you've got a lot of good pieces. And I think that Bob, if he does end up going to Toronto, ends up making this team a lot better. But I think it'll take time because this team is just in a really big hole.
Yeah, I think it's a great landing spot if he does go there. I think, it would be interesting to see because I still think Bob can offer a lot to a lot of these teams here. I do wish he I don't think he even wanted to probably come back to LAFC, honestly. That's why, not to be on a technicality of his contract was ending. I think of it more of almost a mutual parting. I don't think he wanted to be back. I don't think I felt like he was handed a bad hand this year with not just the injuries, but I feel like, we kind of worry about this with NYCFC and New York Red Bull and these teams in huge markets. But I don't want to see LAFC start falling back now. They went out there and spent money the first few years. They won a trophy. They almost won a Champions League. And then I don't want them to start being like, okay, well, now we're going to put together an NYCFC type of roster, or something like that. And I get it. They're in the playoffs. NYCFC playing pretty good right now. But I mean, we got to have these large markets have big stars and really put the money where the mouth is. And I worry that, without Bob, and Bob was a huge part of that franchise. He really was first coach, but I mean, he did have some say. I looked it up. Thorrington is the GM. He's also now co-president or something. I don't know what he really does, but he did put together a lot of the squad. But, Bob was in it. If you watch the ESPN documentary on ESPN Plus what is it? We Are LAFC or whatever it is. There are really great moments with Bob there, and shows how he led this team. I think he was frustrated with the team as well this year. I mean, how many times did he was it near the end of the season? He pulled 3 subs in like the first half, right? I mean, he was pissed.
It's like 30 minutes in. It was like, okay, you're done.
Yeah, he was pissed with the way that they were playing, with the way they're doing. And I think that's part of it too, is I think he was done with it. I think they were done with him. I think it's a clean break now. And I think with Toronto open, that's the most prestigious job open in MLS right now. I know Toronto has not been great recently, like this year. And I know their early history, they weren't great, but they had a stretch where they were like the best team in the league. And if you can go there and turn that back around, and also your son's there, so you're probably going to see your grandkids and all that stuff all the time. Like, that is probably perfect for somebody like Bob right now.
He's got good pieces. I mean,
if I'm Toronto, I want Bob.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's the excellent project. I mean, he's young enough to where he'll be there for some time, and I think that it might be one of his last hurrahs, and I think that he'd be willing to build this team up. I think he likes these kind of projects. I think he liked it with the LAFC. This is a different challenge. He gets to coach Michael. And Michael, I think, is in that same trajectory as I think he'll end up coaching one day. So, I think there's a lot to consider here. You've got really good young players. I don't know how long, some of these guys might stay or go dependent upon what he wants in them. But you got guys like Io Akinola, who, had an unfortunate injury that ended his season, but he was, he was becoming that really dangerous player. Jacob Schaffelberg was playing extremely well. Guys like Jonathan Osario had played well. So you've got nice pieces, Richie Larea. You've got really, really nice pieces to build around. It'll be, shedding off some of the older players that might not be, fit enough to play these, these kind of games anymore. I know they've got some aging players. Justin Morrow retired. So, there's a lot going on, but I think that you've got a lot to work with in Toronto. And like you said, Jordan, once a team becomes something in MLS, it's kind of like the Galaxy allure, where you have this in the Eastern Conference. Like, I would say Toronto is probably the equivalent on this side, where people just want to go to that because it's an attractive market. It's a beautiful city. People like playing there. I think it's interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. Very interesting. I'm curious to see where Bob ends up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I'm any team in the league, I am except for maybe a select few, I am evaluating my coach right now, and I'm saying we have Bob Bradley out there who just won a supporter shield like 2 years ago, breaking the MLS record back then. Like, I'm sorry, who else is like curtain safe, right? But there's some real people that you look at. Pineda's probably safe because he just got the job at Atlanta. But there's some coaches you look at and you say Bruce is safe, obviously. You look at and say, okay, who in especially the East? I don't know, like Miami. If I'm Miami, I'm like, Bob Bradley's available. I think that might work better than Phil Neville.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, they're going to go a different direction.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's been rumors, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they announced it yet or not.
It'll be interesting, too, because I think, that you've got expansion clubs coming. You've got Austin's in disarray, and I don't think they'd move on from Wolf.
Not yet.
So, like you said, there's some opportunity. I doubt that maybe, I guess, Houston, but that wouldn't be very attractive to me if I was Bob. I honestly, like you said, I'd honestly say that even though Toronto finished as poorly as they did, there's still
it's a blank slate almost.
Yeah. And your son's there too. Like your son, I think they have a great relationship. I think that he would enjoy coaching Michael again. So I think, I don't know. I think it's very likely that he ends up in Toronto. A lot of sources out there saying that he's considering it. So
let's look at the CONCACAF Champions League 2022. Montreal became the 4th MLS team to clinch a 2022 spot with their 1-0 victory over TFC in the Canadian Championship. This is another tournament that TFC used to win all the time. Montreal which reached the quarterfinals in their last appearance in 2020, are going to compete in the CCL for the 5th time. This is from MLSsoccer.com. So as rewards for finishing atop the West, Rapids have qualified. The Seattle will be in for having the next best regular season record outside of the Rapids and the Revs, and the Revs have made it with the Supporter Shield. The Sounder spot was made available because of the Open Cup being canceled for 2 years in a row. So instead of just giving it back to Atlanta again, they were like, okay, we'll go to the next best team in the, with the next best record. And it was Seattle. So as it stands now, the Revs, Rapids, Seattle, Montreal, and then the next spot is that coveted MLS Cup champion spot. So whoever wins MLS Cup, that's your next way in. So when I look at this list and I see where did it go? I'm on the where did it go? I see 2 West teams, 2 East teams. I'm interested. What wins out? The third West team or a third East team? Should be very interesting. And of course, if the Revs win MLS Cup, it's going to go to one of those the runner-up in the MLS Cup. Typically, is how it goes. But if that team is Seattle or Rapids, I don't know. I guess it's going to go to somebody else either in the playoffs or another one in the standings. I don't know if we have that list yet, but just interesting here because when you look at this. When I look at this, I say chances for a Champions League win next year not looking likely with this roster of teams. Not to give any crap to the Rapids because what they did was phenomenal. But they have one DP, and to win games in MLS, that's fine. Games in the continent, that's going to be really rough, I think. Seattle and Revs probably the best chances, but Bruce does not take this seriously. I don't know if he will now or not, but like when he was at LA, he always played LA Galaxy 2 players all the time. That was it. Bradford Jameson starting up top. That was it. That was what he did, and it pissed a lot of people off. So I do wonder if he would care. And also, some of these Revs players are going to be leaving. Buchanan's going to be gone, right? And
Books has been rumored to leave too.
Exactly.
Tyjon's been he's on the outs.
He is gone, yeah.
Right. So
he's long back.
Matt Turner might feel like it's the most enticing time if he wins MLS Cup to finally say, hey, you know what? I want to go try somewhere else. Which wouldn't shock me at all. Like I'm waiting for that news to come. Brandon Bai might get looked at as far as a right back's concerned. So I don't know. Like like you said, Carlos Heel, I think is staying. I wouldn't see him going anywhere because he's a little older, but I don't know. You never know with some of these guys.
Yeah,
company you leave.
I mean, yeah. What else is there to do other than Champions League? I guess at that point, but
one Supporter Shield, they win if they run the gauntlet, and like you said, I don't know if enough of them find it alluring to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to win a Champions League in CONCACAF. I think it's much more entertaining to go, I want to go try to win in the championship over in England.
So yeah, we have those. So whoever wins MLS Cup, or if it's already one of those teams, we'll figure out what happens there. But let's quickly talk some of these home openers before we get to the game. So home openers for 2022. The season is kicking off on February 26th, which is a Saturday. And you have Columbus at 3:30 against Vancouver, opening up at lower.com field in Columbus. LAFC versus Colorado. That's going to be a pretty good game. 3:30 at Bank of California Stadium. 5:30 is Dallas versus Toronto at Toyota Stadium. Austin gets Cincinnati at Q2 Stadium at 6 o'clock on Saturday, the 26th of February. DC versus Charlotte at Aldi Field at 6 o'clock. San Jose versus Red Bull New York at PayPal Park in San Jose. That's at 6. Miami versus Chicago at 6 at Drive Pink Stadium. 7:30 is Portland versus New England at Providence Park. That should be a pretty interesting matchup. And we don't have a time for this for whatever reason, but Philadelphia versus Minnesota at Subaru Park. Interesting, that one doesn't have a time, but and everybody else does. Maybe it's going to be a national TV.
That's what I was thinking.
Because the other one is Seattle-Nashville on Sunday without time. I'm wondering if that's going to be a national
That's
game.
definitely going to be national games now that I look at the teams, because if I had to pick like a marquee matchup, that would be the first one on the day one, and then the second one. Although DC and Charlotte, I feel like Charlotte's got to have a national game. Maybe they are the national game out of the 6 p.m. games.
Just seems weird that they want to have a time then for the other one, because usually the TV, I think, sets the times. I do wonder.
I'm going to say 8 o'clock. That's my guess.
That would be brutal. Cold in February at 8 o'clock. I was going to go. Now I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go. But
maybe earlier. I don't know. I doubt they'd play at like 1.
I don't know. I think ESPN loves those like 1 p.m. kickoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a pretty interesting Saturday start.
A lot of interconference.
Look, okay, so if I don't go to Philadelphia versus Minnesota, we should live stream DC Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun because of Charlotte's first game.
Yeah, plus there's other games going on.
Or you come up here in February and we go to DC because that's like an hour and a half away from me. We see Charlotte's first game.
It's at Audi. I thought it was at Charlotte.
No, it's at Audi.
Right? That's weird that they're not playing. I would have thought that they would have easily have played Charlotte.
No, they're starting their home game in the following week against LA Galaxy. But yeah, so then Sunday, February 27th, we have Orlando opening up Exploria at 1 o'clock against Montreal. That's a boring matchup. Atlanta versus SKC at Mercedes-Benz. Galaxy versus New York City at Galaxy's Dignity Health Sports Park. I still call it StubHub Center. We have 7 o'clock Houston versus Salt Lake at PNC Stadium. And then Seattle versus Nashville at Lumen Field. That's probably a 10 o'clock kickoff, honestly. That would probably be an FS1 game or something.
Nashville's got it brutal, man. They're only an hour behind the East Coast, so it's like that they are constantly having to play in a different time zone, it seems. Them and Texas are the only ones that share the same time zone.
Yeah, we really need, once we keep growing, we're going to need a central division or something.
Yeah, you got to have one, I think.
You'd have like Chicago, SKC, St. Louis,
Nashville,
Texas teams. That's 3 teams there. Nashville. You have a pretty good amount in the central time zone now. Minnesota. Yeah, you just have a central, and you do all west and then all east.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun.
And you could clump in, like in the central, you could easily clump in because it's only an hour behind. You could clump in like the Ohio teams too, because that seems to be the teams that get clumped in with the central divisions of different sports. So.
There you go, MLS. We're realigning for you. So then Saturday, March 5th, New England opens at home against Dallas at 1:30. Toronto opens up against Red Bull at BMO Field. That's going to be Bob Bradley there, coach. We're just going to...
A lot of bald guys that day.
We're just going to say we broke that story. It's going to be Bob Bradley there. 3:30 is SKC versus Houston at Children's Mercy Park. Montreal versus Philadelphia at 4 o'clock at Olympic Stadium is Montreal opening up theirs. Chicago opening up against Orlando at Soldier Field. Colorado versus Atlanta at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Salt Lake versus Seattle at Rio Tinto. Vancouver versus NYCFC at BC Place. Minnesota versus Nashville at Allianz. Cincinnati versus DC at TQL or West End Stadium. And Charlotte versus Galaxy at Bank of America Stadium. That's going to be a primetime game. 8 o'clock. That's going to be on one of the big networks because it's going to be their first home game. That's what's going to happen.
Is that LA?
Yeah,
sorry, that's LA Galaxy?
Galaxy, yeah.
Okay. Why don't they have that? Is LAFC on here?
They're probably
no, they're not. Maybe that's why they didn't denote.
Yeah, they're sitting that weekend.
It's confusing.
Saturday, March 12th, NYCFC open up against Montreal at Yankee Stadium.
Yay.
Sunday, March 13th, Red Bull opens up at Minnesota at Red Bull Arena. And Sunday, May 1st, Nashville opens up at Philadelphia. So Nashville is going to go the first 2 months away from home. That's going to be really tough for them. But then they're going to have a really good stretch at the second half of the year, I think. But with them being in the West, that's really going to be bad. But they're going to have a whole new stadium opening on May 1st. That is going to be fantastic. I wish I could go to that game. That's going to be Philly is opening it up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, May 1st, man. Fly down. Just go. Just do it.
Oh, we're also in December, by the way. Another news point here. In December, we're having an expansion draft for Charlotte. So we'll see how that goes.
We could cover that. When is that? Do they know what time?
It's last time, I think last year, it was literally
Like
when
noon.
Austin opened up. It was like 12 or 2 o'clock.
It was during school.
It was during a work day too. I was working from home and I had it up on the TV while I was working or whatever. Like,
Hey, what day did you say?
I think it may have been at 4 o'clock actually, because then I went down and watched the rest of it while I was making dinner. It was like a weird time. I think it's the 14th of December.
14th of December.
Let me look it up. December
14th. Yep.
14th.
So it looks like they're gonna not like that's a busy month. Oh my lord, that's gonna be so busy. December is also the schedule release around that time. They said it could be very close to that date because they'll want people to know. And then you got the super draft coming up.
Yep. December 13th is the list of players eligible for selection. And then December 14th is the expansion draft. Now, there are some teams that are excluded from it because they had players taken the year before. So that includes like Orlando.
I don't think Austin can have anybody picked.
Orlando, San Jose, Red Bulls, Nashville, LA Galaxy.
So Austin could have somebody.
Yes. Yep. So have to be very careful who they save. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll have an episode on expansion draft later on.
We will,
because I want to get more into specifics. Because
I
I remember Orlando's watching it. It's so cool because you like watch the boardroom. It's fun.
Yeah. So it's a Tuesday. So maybe we just record that Tuesday then, and we do it after the expansion draft.
Yeah, we'll look through the players and kind of go through. Maybe we can find somebody from Charlotte. That'll be fun,
we should try to do that. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that because we can record and then have them on.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It works.
All right, so let's get into the actual games here. We had some playoff games. We had NYCFC versus Atlanta. We had Philly versus Red Bull. We had Portland versus Minnesota, and we had SKC versus Vancouver. So we're going to go in the order that the games were played. We started off with a Philadelphia versus Red Bulls matchup that was only on Univision and MLSsoccer.com for the broadcast. I have Univision now from YouTube TV, so I just watched it on there. Couldn't understand what was going on, but that was fine. You don't need commentary.
You can comment yourself, yeah.
I was. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I was sitting there watching it. It wasn't a great game, but I'll tell you what everybody will remember. This fantastic goal by Glesnes in the 120-plus third minute as he just – you can hear – have you heard the fan video? Did you watch the fan video of it?
It was wild. It sounded like an eruption.
Let me see if I can find it real quick because this was really good. And I want to share the audio on here if I can, because it was really good. Okay, here it is. Share this video real quick. You can actually hear them yell for him to shoot, which is fantastic. All right, here we go. I'm going to play it one more time.
That's incredible. I love that.
It's a really, really great goal, and you can hear them yelling shoot, and he just does it, and it goes in. You weren't nobody was expecting that except for me, because I guess my YouTube TV was a little behind, so I got the darn score notification before it happened. Ruined the whole moment for
me. Jordan running through the house with his Union jersey off and sliding to his knees. He's lying to you, folks.
It was it was fun. My friend Rich was there. My friend Todd was there. We had a lot of people there. In Union fandom, I couldn't be there because I had to do other things, but it was fun to watch on TV and just be able to see that place erupt at that goal. And just, I don't know, Union have not won many playoff games. I think that's their second ever, both against Red Bull. So there's a good part of the rivalry there. But I was really worried. I thought literally I was going to the movies at 6:15, and I knew at that point the game would be over even with penalties, but I really thought, like, we're going to go out there, we're going to play against the Red Bulls, we're going to win. I had them winning 3-1. You had Union winning 2-0, and it just didn't happen that way. And it got to the point where we were getting close to penalties that I was like, we might lose this game. Like, this might be it. And I said, for whatever reason, we just playoffs. It was a little worrying. They get through there, especially with the pass. It's got to get through Red Bull, Nashville, or Orlando, and then probably facing the Revs, which would be a really tough thing. But we had their number last year. But, to try to get to an MLS Cup final, which is the goal. And I thought we were going to throw it away. Took a moment of magic, but Glesnes scores. It's the latest goal, I think, in MLS history, they said. So pretty fun there. Not a great game. Hopefully it's just because of the the international break, coming back from a little bit of a break, trying to get ready. And I do worry about the Revolution now, which I think we already kind of talked about before, about coming back from, which will essentially be a 2-week break for them because they sat this game out. So I do worry about how they'll be after. Not only that, but like Minnesota, we'll talk about with Minnesota. Minnesota was playing a do or die game all the time. Didn't really help them, I guess, anyway. But I do worry with like the Revs running away with it. Do they have the mindset to turn it back on for meaningful games? And that's something I wonder about. But I think Bruce Arena is professional enough that he'll get them set up for it. But just wonder how that's going to go. You have any thoughts on the goal or these two teams?
I mean, the goal was fantastic. It was definitely, obviously, one I'm going to remember forever because it's, one of the first playoff. I mean, it is the first playoff for me. And watching this game, getting that playoff atmosphere, because I watched some of it last year when Orlando was in it, but then after that, I didn't watch much of the MLS playoffs. But this was like my real first year in covering it and understanding what's going on. But you said it. I mean, but I always feel like people talked about the fact that it was like not a great game by Philadelphia, but I thought. The one thing that stood out to me is that Red Bull, when they do win, I think that when Red Bulls win, it's very much, it's ugly. It's always been ugly. It's not ever been pretty football, and MLS is not pretty football. So I don't know, if people were expecting this to be magnificent. And, Philly, I will give them that. Like, they are one of the best defensive, if not the best defensive club in the East and maybe in all of MLS. They've got one of the most scary backlines, I think, and one of the more efficient. And I think that when you're talking about, a Red Bull team that is young, it's the youngest team in MLS. It's, I think, hard to really gauge just how good this game might have been for Philly because while they didn't play well, they still were able to grind one out and win. And I think that's kind of the magic that Jim Curtin has always instilled in this Philadelphia team. I think last year they missed out on the MLS playoffs because they got outplayed and outsmarted by Bruce Arena. But I think that, or no, it was Bruce. And I think that when you look at this Philadelphia team, the only thing they're really missing is that goal scorer, right? Is that goal threat. And I know people were tweeting about maybe trying to find a goal scorer or DP. They can't find one now, but they can find one coming up in the offseason. They've got 2 months since it's a crazy turnaround to try to go and find a goal scorer. But I think that if you're Philadelphia and you're a fan of the Union, I think that if you're looking at an exit, it would have to be because you just didn't score. I think you're going to defend just as well as anybody. And I think that while Nashville is good, cohesively. I think that there's an ability there with Philadelphia hosting that game to kind of stymie a Nashville attack or an Orlando attack, especially. Both those teams aren't like Revs worthy in the attack. So I think, honestly, I mean, if I'm Philadelphia, I'm looking at this comfortably as saying, like, our team can defend anybody. It's just a matter of can we get the goals when necessary. And I don't know if Shabelko can do it at a consistent level to really put Union as one of the favorites.
What did I talk about going into this season?
Not having a goal scorer.
Goal scorer.
Yeah.
And it's really biting us right now.
Yeah.
Because when Shabelko's on, he's on, but he's off most of the time. And he had a good year last year at times, whenever it was now. It feels like a while ago because he just hasn't been able to get it going anymore. He had a wide open chance at a point where he put it well over the bar. And I said, this is not, that's the best chance you're going to get in the game. And luckily, I mean, it was actually, but luckily, Glesnes pulled something out of nowhere and he just only scores bangers that it was just, fantastic there. And then we had SKC versus Vancouver, right? Was that the next game?
Yeah, that was the next one on that day. Yeah.
Those 2 days flew by. I'm like,
they really did. Yeah.
Kyrie Shelton scored 17 minutes in. Then we had Dahomey equalize in the 39th minute with a penalty for Vancouver. But then Ishmael Marin and Zuzi scoring in the 45th plus 3 and 58th to get SKC through to the next round. 3-1 win. Pretty standard for Sporting Kansas City, except for they didn't have possession. Vancouver had a lot more possession. SKC, though, had a lot more shots. And that ultimately leads to more goals for them, and they win and get to move on to the next round and face I don't even think they know who they're facing yet. No, they don't. It'll be either Seattle or – and I really think a Seattle-SKC matchup would be really fun. Because then you can't lose, because then you're getting either SKC versus Rapids or Portland, or you're getting Seattle versus Rapids or Portland, which I think are really, that's like 4 great matchups that you're able to get there. But to me, I expected an SC win. What did we say? We said 1-0 and 2-0. They won 3-1. So you also said Johnny Russell was going to score. He did not. So
yeah, but he was involved, not involved really at all, but yeah, he was out there standing somewhere. But Greg Zuzi had like a resurgence, man. Put him on the team. Call him up, Greg. Put him up. Let's go.
Yeah, put him wearing right back.
That's fine. Sergio's down. Like, hey, what would be fun? I always thought this would be fun, right? I was thinking about this today. If we do qualify, the last window, what we should do is just call up the old legends, right? Just call up like Josie, Michael. Can Landon still play? Like, is he technically? Can we still register him as a player? Like, I don't know if that's still a thing, but
I don't think so.
Probably not. But just call him some of the legends. Have Yedlin still out there playing because he's still a legend. But that'd be great. Like Julian Green, just some of the old names that you just forget about exist.
That would be fun. But any thoughts on SKC or Vancouver here? Vancouver is a team we weren't really high on. We had them worst of the West.
Mm-hmm.
But they did pretty well. They got in the playoffs, get bounced out by a good SKC team. I don't know what else you could really ask for this team.
Yeah, I was going to say we came into this year just thinking that they were just going to be absolutely brutal. And Mark DeSantos was at the helm when the season started, and then as time progressed, I thought Vanni Sartini was fantastic, and when he took over, they became one of the more threatening teams as far as the West was concerned. I think they've got a lot of good pieces to kind of build around. They've Brian White played extremely well for him this year. Dahomey's been really good. He had 11 goals. Brian White had 12. Daber Caicedo, I think, had a good first year, just kind of learning the league. But I do think, like Ryan Gould was really, really well, did really well this year. Christian Gutierrez played extremely well too. So I think when you're looking at this team, you've got nice pieces to build around. And again, I think you're looking at a Vancouver team, Jordan. I think that 2016 or 2017 was their last playoff appearance. And they've kind of fought their way back in, and they've played well this year. And I think they just go up from here, because I do think, and Vanni Sartini, I think they haven't decided that he would be the coach next year, but on an interim basis, he did extremely well. The only thing that he did maybe poorly was to say that they were going to beat them in Children's Mercy. But hey, it shows guts. And I thought through the first half, I thought they looked like they could actually maybe upset them. But then in the second half, SKC just has more talent. And Daniel Shallowy is just unbelievably good player. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see what they do. Vancouver just couldn't defend them. They just couldn't stay with them.
Then we had an Atlanta NYCFC matchup on Sunday, which was just brutal for Atlanta. Atlanta had more possession. NYCFC had more shots, but really, I just felt like NYCFC really did well this whole game. And then, coming out of halftime, scoring 2 goals in 4 minutes, 49th and 53rd minutes by Castellanos and Kalins, really just shocked. It's like Atlanta didn't even expect that to happen coming out of the half, and like they were still in the locker room. And then they get a red card in the 90-plus third minute. It's all kind of over at that point. But I don't know. I mean, it was one of those games by Atlanta, and I think this is where it shows how important it is to have a good season. NYCFC got the home game. They were able to play on their turf or their outfield, and then they were able to get the win. Where if Atlanta hosts, it might be a whole different story because of the new atmosphere around the team and how Mercedes-Benz Stadium can be and all that kind of good stuff. But unfortunately, this is why you have to finish in those top 4 spots. When we talked at the beginning of the year and everybody says we need to finish in those top 4 spots, it's because of games like this. This, having it at Yankee Stadium, just set everything. I think NYCFC could still win at Mercedes-Benz, but when you have that, your fans, when you have that small dimensions of your field and you're used to playing on, then I think it really shows how important, finishing in top 4 of the regular season is.
Yeah, and just kind of putting Atlanta to rest. You've got good pieces, but I think that there's going to be a challenge. Gonzalo Pineda has quite a task on hand, and I think part of that is getting Joseph healthy again. Like, I'm not sure he's quite there yet. I think he's got at least a couple more months, and maybe into the new season he'll be better. You do worry about it starting cold. I know it's not like frigid in Atlanta because they're playing indoors, but they do have to travel to different places. And I think, you look around at that roster, and there was just times where it just seems like one side was playing well while the other side wasn't playing well as far as their team and the balance. But then, you've got guys like Miles Robinson who might not be there next year. Ezekiel Barco has always talked about moving elsewhere. Araujo, I don't know. Rujo, I don't think, it depends on how well he plays and if he stays. Again, I think that's a big piece too, that they need next year. And if he doesn't play as well as he did to come on this year and then play as well going forward and with that team, I think that's a problem. But Marcelino Moreno, had a good year off and on there. It was like a roller coaster ride with Atlanta, it seemed. And then Guzan's not getting any younger. And that's a big piece too, that I think a lot of people are missing as time goes on. Can their defense really be as formidable if you got the aging goalkeeper with some of the makeshift pieces that you're going to have in the defense? And I think they were changing formations constantly to try to figure that out. And you can't do that in New York. And when you want to try to go up against the NYCFC team that's playing in a makeshift soccer stadium that completely is a home field advantage, it's really difficult to beat them. And I think that's where they kind of run into the problem is NYCFC and Castellanos are just so good right now and in form. I think that they are easily one of the more formidable teams in the playoffs that they could have run up against. And unfortunately for Atlanta, it just didn't pan out this time.
Yeah, it's, I think I said everything I can about it. It's just unfortunate that, under a new manager, they were, I guess you have to look at the plus side too. They were able to get to this point after firing their manager and really being like really piss poor the whole season, I guess. up until that point. It really did change the outcome of the season. The fact that they were able to get into the playoffs, it sucks they couldn't have gotten a home playoff game for their fans after that, but unfortunately, it's how it happens sometimes, and they didn't have a lot of wiggle room because of that poor start, and we'll see how they go next year. There should be building blocks here to maybe get a top 4 spot next year, and then the next year do even better, right? That's how it's supposed to go. As we talked about, there's going to be a spot open because Nashville is leaving the East, and we're getting Charlotte, and I'm not very convinced about Charlotte right now. So I do think that there's an open spot for a team like TFC to get into a playoff spot, or a Montreal, or somewhere like that. But that also means that there might be a chance for you to wiggle into the top 4 there, even though Nashville is a top 4 team in this season. So there is a top 4 spot available. So it's there for the taking. And the next game had a lot of fireworks in it. Portland 3, Minnesota 1. Fragapane scoring in the 11th minute. And then Mbalia and Blanco scoring in the 43rd and 47th. And Blanco scoring again in the 66th. Some really fantastic goals in this game. There was also a missed handball and a missed red card. What is the point, Logan, of VAR if we're not going to use it in playoff games?
I was really confused by that too. And there were people tweeting at us that it has to go through like a certain protocol to get to VAR, and that it didn't go through the center ref, so that's why it didn't get to VAR, which is really confusing because it's like,
why didn't it go to them then?
Right, didn't it go to them? Right, like why? And people complain about it. And is it CONCACAF that doesn't have it? So it's like CONCACAF doesn't have it, so
it will though. It will though for January and March. Yeah,
right. So it is. It's like if you have the technology available, why not use it? Especially on these kind. I get it if you don't want to use it on offside, or if you want to keep it to where it's you go by the ref's judgment and you don't try to murk that up. But if you really want to get just like in NBA, I see this a lot where they'll go back to the replay to see if it was a flagrant 2 or flagrant 1. Same thing here. Yellow card, red card. I think it's a very clear indication as to like, hey, this is being called right. This game is being called correctly. The officiating is going to get what it needs to done. And I think that it's efficient when you have VAR, because I think in this instance, you really completely just miss one here. And it really does change the game. I mean, I don't know how it doesn't change it a ton, but if Reynoso it's Fragapane that went after, I think it was one of the Charas where he goes in and he tried to chop, I think it's Diego. And he tries to kind of like double stomps at his feet, and I'm like, that's clearly a violent act. It's clearly one that should have been easily or straight red. He should have been sent packing, but wasn't, and he very well could have broken Chara's leg. I mean, it was one of those ones that he went in so late and so violently that if he'd have got any kind of his ankle, he would have broke it right in half. It was just so violent and so blatant that I don't know how you missed it initially, 2, how you don't go into VAR and get it the next time and you just let it pass as if nothing has happened. So it's a, how do you miss this and how do you not let this go to VAR? I don't know.
So my whole point is we have VAR to get the calls right. We use it during the regular season all the time. Why are we not using it in the biggest games of the season? These are the games you want the calls correct the most in. The handball that would have been what? Mm-hmm. That was when it was 3. Was it when it was 2-1 or was it when it was 3?
It was. I want to say it was when it was 3-1, but they would still have. It would have been
3-2 and have plenty of time still.
Yeah.
Until they got the red card next. Mm-hmm. But these things matter. Why are we doing these things during the regular season if we're not going to use it in the most important games? Regular season games matter, I guess, right? Top 4 spot matters, as we just said, but not to the extent that these games matter. The playoff games. This is what's going to help determine Who wins MLS Cup? Who gets to MLS Cup? This probably affects bonuses for the players. How far you make it into the rounds probably affects bonuses for coaches. Stuff like that. Why have it if you're not going to use it? If the reason is because it didn't go to the center ref or whatever, isn't the whole part of VAR to tell the center ref, hey, go take a look at it? I don't understand how that would be a thing. Somebody should have been looking at it. Somebody should have been sending it to him. Have the ref take a look and make him decide again. Do you want a red card here or no? Do you want a penalty here or no? You can still leave it up to his hands, but make him look at it again. Maybe he didn't see it right the first time, and have him make the decision. It's like it's like when you're doing an NFL thing and they, I saw it with the Raven game yesterday. Andy Dalton clearly missed throw, right? Incomplete pass. Ravens picked it up and ran it in. They called it a touchdown because touchdowns are reviewed, and they immediately were able to tell that it was an incomplete pass. Why aren't we just double checking? Is my main complaint.
And here's another thing that I want to throw out there because I don't think I've seen it on Twitter yet. If you want to be taken seriously as a league, right, you've got the first game, which is NYCFC playing on some kind of makeshift baseball stadium, and then you flip on this game, and they're not on the same day, but if you flip on this game, then you've got the same issue of like you are looking. Were they on the same day? Yeah.
They were back to back.
Sorry. The East Coast, West Coast thing. So when you're looking at that and then you miss these two calls and they're blatant calls that should have been thrown to VAR, and then you're like, why doesn't this league have one of the most crucial replay systems that they could put into place to make sure that these games are going called the proper way? It really was a bad day as far as like when you're looking at this MLS, the Cup, it kind of taints it a little bit because it's like, okay, now the further you get into this and the more that this stuff happens, because we're lucky it's only happened a couple times in these playoffs, it could happen in these next rounds where it really matters. And like you said, Jordan, it bonuses. It can maybe be the difference between a player getting sold and transferred to a league that he has been dreaming about his whole life. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into play with this, and it seems like you're just playing with the livelihood of different people when you're talking about just get the review system, get it into place, and then review it if it looks questionable, and then we can have a clear cut winner of MLS Cup and not one that's like, oh well, if that game would have been called correctly, then maybe they don't have the MLS Cup in hand at the end of the season when they're hoisting it up. So it really is. It's annoying that it's gotten to this point and they don't have VAR hanging out to help out.
Okay. Then we had so those are the games so far, and we have tomorrow, the 23rd, of the day you're listening to this, Nashville versus Orlando on FS1 at 8:00 and 10:30. Seattle versus RSL on FS1. Thursday, Thanksgiving, we got Colorado versus Portland at 4:30 on Big Fox. Excited for that. Then Saturday, we have SKC versus either the winner of the Seattle RSL at 3:00 on ABC. 5:30 on ESPN is Philadelphia versus the winner of Nashville Orlando. So we are looking forward to those. We got, I predicted Atlanta to win. Portland, we both predicted to win 2-0, 2-1. We were close. Montreal, we both chose to win the Canadian Championship. I had the score right at 1-0. And we both got SKC and Union right. So Logan had a perfect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 selection.
I should have bet on it, man.
You were 5-0, and I was 4-1.
What was I doing? I should have joined the bracket on MLS. What am I doing with my life?
So we have Nashville versus Orlando, and I want to get your prediction on Nashville versus Orlando.
All right, so I'm an Orlando fan, so clearly I'm going to go with Nashville 2-0 because I don't think Orlando has any kind of shot in this match. It is at Nissan Stadium. They are playing in what probably is going to be a lot colder weather than Florida. The attack has been kind of iffy. Nani not being selected in that Montreal game was kind of concerning at the end of the season on decision day. DK, I just think the wheels are burning out. And I think that, even though he's had a prolonged break when he was injured, I don't know. I'm just not feeling. I'm not feeling real confident here, Jordan. It's a good defense that we're going up against, and I think Walker and DK are headed for a Goliath versus David, and I'm pretty sure that Goliath might win this one.
You mean Walker for that?
Yeah,
right?
he's Goliath. Yeah.
What's your score line?
2-0, Nashville.
Yep, I actually had 2-0 as well. Nashville. I think you're right to be concerned. Nashville, really good at home. Though when they last played each other, it was 1-1 at Nashville.
Yeah.
So you have a shot. But I do think Nashville are going to turn it on. They want to show the world. And really, if they're going to win an MLS Cup, this is the year right now. And the reason I say that is because they will not have it easier on the West. They can get through Orlando. They can beat Philly. I know that in my heart. And they could probably go really toe-to-toe with the Revs and get to an MLS Cup final. This is their best shot for the foreseeable future until they add more teams to the West and they get probably shunted back over to the East or something. But we'll see. There's been teams like Houston and SKC that used to be Eastern Conference teams and stuff. So, I mean, it's crazy. But, yeah, I do think that Nashville is gonna win this one. All right, Seattle versus RSL.
All right, so Seattle's got a couple of interesting pieces. I mean, Nicholas Lodeiro hurt, could play, probably will play. Jordan Morris hurt, could play, probably will play. I knew who's out, but I don't think that's going to bother him enough because I do think Real Salt Lake did kind of just sneak in. They do have an MVP candidate in my mind, and Damir Kreilach, but I just don't think it's going to be enough at Lumen Field. I think Seattle just has too much firepower. I'm going to go Seattle. I'm going to say it's going to be 1-0 Seattle.
Yeah, I have Seattle as well. Like you said, Smetcher gave a positive update today. Sounds like Raul Ruiz, Xavier Arreguia, and Leo Chu are 100% healthy for the RSL game, and Nicholas Lodeiro is available on the bench. So it sounds like Seattle is stacked. I have Seattle winning 3-1. Did you have a scoreline?
Yeah, Seattle 1-0.
1-0. Okay, I'm going to go 3-1. Let's go for it. And I want to predict the other games, but we can't because we don't know what they'd be. But let's predict what I'm going to call the Thanksgiving Classic. And we have Portland
versus the Cowboys, right? That's the wrong sport. Sorry.
I know. I'm going to have to try to watch this on my phone, I guess, because no place I'm going is going to be having these games on, unfortunately.
Well, you could convert them, Jordan. Now's your chance to talk to them about the MLS and why it's the most wild league in the wild.
The bad thing is like, what time is this game? 4:30? I have a dinner. We're actually going to a restaurant at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, there's no way. So I can't even like take control of somebody's TV. Like it would be, I don't know. I don't think it's happening. But I'm going to go first. I'm going to go ahead and say Portland 1-0. I'm sorry, Rapids. I'm going to go Portland on this because I picked them to win supporter shout. I feel like I got to give them something. I feel like I got to get them past this round at least to feel really good about my picks here. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Portland 1-0 in a crazy game in Colorado. What do you have here?
Portland's playing really well. Colorado played well defensively. However, I don't know. I think I'm in the same boat with you. I think that Portland just has it, and I think they've got more experience as far as playing in these big games. And I think, they're missing Eric Williamson because of the injury to his knee, and have been, for the latter part of the year. So it's been fun to watch Portland just kind of come into form here late in the playoffs and make this kind of creepy run into the contention for the MLS Cup. And to be honest, I like the way that they're playing, maybe better than anybody that's played. So they took apart the Loons after kind of having a rough start. And again, I marked that up to the international break. So I think Portland actually has a good chance here. And I'm going to go Portland 2, Jordan. I'm going to say Portland 2-1 final score.
Portland 2-1. Oh, man. We are not making friends in Colorado.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, really. I like Coloradans. I don't know what they call them, but.
Oh, and I guess we can predict predict the
New England,
New England
NYCFC.
NYCFC. Those are the only ones we know. Yeah, so let's do it. New England.
We could do a hypothetical prediction of you just have to put the two teams through. You would be like, okay, Sporting Kansas City plays. Who would they play? They'd play the winner of RSL and Seattle.
I'm going to go with, so if we go New England, I'm going to go New England 2-1 over NYCFC.
Yeah.
What do you got?
New England 3-0. I'm going to say it's a trouncing, dismantling of NYCFC. That'll probably bite me in the butt. They'll probably be exiting after a 3-month-long break they've had or whatever.
So if we picked Seattle, right, versus SKCs, I mean, so we against RSL. So let's go ahead and do SKC versus Seattle, since we chose Seattle.
And that's going to be at Lumen.
No, that would be at SKC.
What? Why? Seattle's number 2.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Seattle's 2, SKC 3.
Yeah, so it'd be Seattle at home. I would have to go Seattle. I think that'd be a really good matchup, though.
It'd be a fun one. I think that would be a blast. Like, these are going to be some really good matches this coming, like, semifinal week. I mean, there's some really good teams that are going to be playing.
I'm not going to do score lines for this since we don't know who's going to get through. So I'm just going to say Seattle beats SKC if they get there.
Yeah, I was going to say Seattle beats SKC if they get there.
All right. And Philly versus, we both picked Nashville.
Oof. I'm going to say Philly at home is so hard to beat. I don't care if they can score or not. I'm going to say Philly win it. I'm going to say 2-1. They'll actually get some goals here.
Interesting. I'm going to go.
I guess we didn't need score, but.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm going to go. Let's do Nashville 1-0. I think Union are going to have a tough time scoring, even at home. Nashville's really good defensively. Nashville also has some really good attack. I do worry about that. So I would go ahead and probably pick Nashville to move on. They're just so tough a team to beat there.
We haven't done our full prediction, have we?
Like a full bracket?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we will. I think we'll just kind of take it step by step here, because the only thing that can happen out of taking it all at once is we get embarrassed. We lose.
I think Vancouver wins it all.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll just replay a clip of you from last week saying Vancouver wins all before they got knocked out.
Don't do that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. Any other things here? Talk real quick about NWSL. So it was Chicago Red Stars versus Washington Spirit. In the final, Washington Spirit won. They had a lot of issues with their coach that got let go mid-season, abusive stuff. Red Stars coach makes it throughout the whole season, and then today, this drops from the Washington Post saying that NWSL players say U.S. Soccer failed to act on abuse claims against the Red Stars coach. So he got to finish out the whole season, Rory Dames. And they've made the finals 3 years in a row. And he's been, it seems like this is just something that has been continually happening. He's the 5th male NWSL coach to be accused of misconduct this year. This year alone. The league's commissioner, Lisa Baird, already resigned because of this going on again with Paul Riley earlier in the season. We had the Spirit have their problems. We've had just awful things here. I don't know how to fix this for the league. At this point, I put this out on our Twitter. At this point, we should almost just fire every single coach and restart. I mean, and really just do a thorough. All right, you're clean. You can get rehired. Like, I don't know, because this shouldn't be happening. And it's just been embarrassment after embarrassment after embarrassment this year, as we talked about. We talked about this when Lisa Baird resigned. And things have just continued to snowball this way. And, people were upset that some people were rooting against the Spirit because of all of their troubles. But turns out the Red Stars were going through the same thing, and that coach got to coach throughout the whole season for whatever reason. Players being told to shut up and not say anything. And now it comes out after the end of the season here, after he had already resigned. He had resigned. He wasn't fired. I think there was going to be like a, quietly leaving type of thing. But of course the news breaks and you're like, oh, that makes sense now why he resigned, right? Is because of this. They knew this was coming and they got out ahead of it. And I always said, like, I wanted to get in the NWSL. We were talking about this season, and the Spirit are the closest team to me. Philly doesn't have a team. I was turned off by the Spirit with everything that happened this year, with how the owner's been acting, with how the coach was acting. They're a fun group of players to watch. Trinity Rodman is fun to watch, but I don't know if I can support that team until a new owner comes in. And now I feel like I can't support the league until we get this settled. I mean, this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and I think it's really tough because it's like you almost want MLS to step into and say, okay, hey, we'll give you the vetting process that we do with our coaches. And I know it's a different kind of thing, but it's got to be a vetting issue. Like it's that, and then it's also the society that we've kind of brought up to be like, shut up and work because that's what you're supposed to do. And you're supposed to not go against the authority figures because you just need to get over it. Nobody likes their boss kind of thing. And it's such an annoying conversation. And it's the generation, it's that 40 to 60 age group, right? That right now, and sorry if you're one of those people that listen to us that are in that age group, but you're probably not one of these people that you're probably yelling at this with us just like we are. And it's the problem with the fact that we just for so long had been the society that like, oh, just get over it, just move on. It's just boys being boys. It's annoying. It's a gross society. It's misogynistic. It's a league that should have been given more of a fair shake. It's the idea that we continuously try to put the NWSL down and below the MLS because they're men, or like the MLS is men and the NWSL are women. And it's still that
you get the same thing with like WNBA.
Yes.
People poke at that a lot.
Right. So they're told to just shut up and ignore it because we're giving you money to play and perform in your profession. Could you imagine going to work and people just racially abusing you or sexually abusing you, and you're so unwanted and you complain so much to your higher ups and they go, it's just him being him, and that's, we're successful because of him, so we can't move on. It's sick. It's time that the NWSL hires somebody like an Adam Silver or maybe Don Garber is really good at handling some of these situations. It's hire somebody that's got good leadership. Hire somebody that, I mean, to be honest, they're throwing names out, like have Abby Wambach and Megan and Alex and them interview people, and these players union interview people, vet coaches, go through the players process, like go through the process of eliminating people from this sport. They've got to clean it up, and it's going to be a big overhaul. It's going to be a big cleanup. And unfortunately, this league doesn't have that time, I don't think. And it really is unfortunate because this team is just now starting to gain success. They're on Paramount Plus. You can watch their games on big networks now.
The finals on CBS at noon.
Yeah, right. And now they've got this to deal with. It's just – and, Jordan, what girl wants to come play here when they can go play in England or – where it's clean, or Spain where it might be cleaner?
Like, one of the players who is Canadian who came out against the old Spirit coach just this past week again, public about who she was and stuff, and he gave her a hard time. Listen to this. For, at the end of a season or at the end of a break or whatever, she went back home to Canada, and her mom or grandmother was sick.
Right.
And she stayed there while her grandmother was dying and came back, and the coach gave her crap for it, abused her for it. And that kind of thing. And then he comes out and still tries to defend it. Like, it was a disgusting interview. But with that it comes to the point of she went over back to Europe to play because she was at the point here where she hated playing soccer. Yeah. And over there, she was able to fall in love with it again. Mm-hmm. If you want the best female players here in America, like the NWSL has had, and we've started seeing this exodus of some of the U.S. women's team going overseas and stuff too, you got to clean this part up about it, because I don't know what I'm sure some of this stuff happens overseas too, but the fact that some of these players are going to be leaving this league, and this is NWSL has been around as now like the longest top flight women's league in the U.S. Mm-hmm. But before that, we were going through league after league that lasted 2 or 3 years, 4 years. And I worry if this stuff keeps happening, we're going to be right back there again with no top flight women's team, because who would, like you said, who would want to be a part of this? How 5 people this year accused of this stuff? Like, that's too many. One is too many, but 5 in a year is insane. And when you're looking at how that's going to be, little kids, their parents are not going to want them to play in NWSL. They're not going to want to play with how this is. Just get it fixed. Clean it up. Enough rant. You can follow us on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, email us statesideShow@gmail.com. We didn't get to talk USA Jamaica, but it finished 1-1. Mm-hmm. Great goal from who was it, Antonio? Yeah. Scoring that.
Couldn't have been saved. There's no way.
I did want to talk about that before, but we're kind of past that now. But we're Matt Turner fans here, but no way in hell he saves that either. People in the stadium have said that was unsavable. They had better views than the TV. Get over it. But USA, Canada at the top of the at the group right now. USA in second. It's going to be a tight top 4. We're going to probably be able to clinch top 4 soon, but you got to try to get that top 3 so you don't have to go to a playoff. But that's it. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your day.
Did they close the curtain on the Red Bull season? Because it felt like they did.
That is pretty good.